Another day on the Russ Meek Speak Show.
Another day, another dollar.
Lester Blair here, and I have an interesting gentleman who's been in the interesting world of AI we're going to be talking about for the next hour. And I'd love for him to give you a little overview of himself and tell us where we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and roll from there. So, Jay, what's the scoop for today?
So, I bring my notes because we're going to try and cover a lot of territory, and we're going to be doing sort of a surfing. So we're not going to have the time to get deep into it, so that's why I have my notes here.
Okay.
So my background is in technology, and I've been involved in technology programming, systems, hardware, networking for several decades. So,
okay.
And AI is just the latest technology that I'm embracing, and I'm embracing it because I put money into building an AI lab. So my philosophy has always been one of, rather than talk, wave my hands, point to a PowerPoint, I actually want to prove to myself that the technology has value. And in that philosophy, I've learned where technologies are weak and where technologies are strong. So today we have a sort of a 5-part thing, a brief background, and then the good, the bad, and the ugly, and finally we'll end up with a call to action.
Okay.
So what's the background? AI. Unless you've been living in a really deep cave, you've heard about AI.
I've heard a little bit about it.
You've heard about the marketing, you've heard the hype, you've heard the FOMO, you've heard everything. And I want people to sort of calm down and understand a couple of fundamental things. We have been through technological changes before.
Okay.
This is just another technological change along the way. The marketing of this technology, unfortunately, has been overblown. So when I look at technologies, we've done hardware upgrades, we've done software changes, we went through the networking thing, and the next to the last thing was the internet. Because remember when the internet came along, publishers would cease, there would be no more published books, there'd be no more TV news, there'd be no more newspapers, and yet,
still got it.
we got TV news, we got radio news. Fact is, we have news running out of our ears, even to the point of not being able to feel comfortable about the news we allegedly hear. So I grew up at a time when news helped you. News told you something you did not know, and news you could think about, because we weren't rushing to say something before somebody else said it. So the changes are there. I get nervous when things don't change, but then I've lived in the world of technology for a while. So I expect change, I embrace it. So we have the technological change, hardware, software, network, internet, big data. Now we have AI, but we've had changes all along. In the business side, we've had downsizing. I don't know if people remember that back in the 90s, you were downsizing, re-engineering. We've had right-sizing, because you didn't get the downsizing right, so now we have right-sizing.
Right.
And then we had offshoring because it was too expensive to make it here, it was cheaper to make it somewhere else. And so then we had the pandemic, and we had work from home. And with each one of those changes, the world was kind of coming to an end, it would be drastically different, et cetera, and yet it's 2026, and here we are. So the question is, what's really different about AI? And there are 4 things that I look at that say AI is really different. We're talking about connecting a lot of technologies that have existed before, and the AI is the thinking portion of connecting those technologies. So historically, when you wanted something done, you had to go over and push a button, turn the dial, key something in. The AI now can act as your brain, so to speak. To do that with data, it knows when to do it, and with the proper instructions, it should know how to do it. Because we're connecting all these technologies, we're connecting machinery, we're connecting communications, we're connecting all these AIs, all of these technologies with AI, it appears to be almost magical.
Okay.
You know, I wake up in the morning and the coffee has already started and some other things have already gone. Well, we could have done that without AI. It just wouldn't have happened as smoothly as AI brings it into. The big issue with AI, more so than any technology I've seen in the past, is the amount of money that has poured into AI.
Talking to billions of dollars.
I've seen millions and tens of millions pour into a technology, but I've never seen billions and tens of billions. And to mention one name, Sam Altman is now asking for $500 billion. That's $500 billion to bring his newest AI there. My concern with the AI is the speed with which AI works. In the past, if you were washing clothes, you knew that that clothes washer was going to run for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, depending upon what the clothing setting was. With AI now, you don't know how fast. Most people have no idea how fast things can happen. So where we were talking maybe 2 hours worth of work, now can be done in 15 or 20 seconds.
Got it.
So the speed is the real issue. So that's the key difference with this AI. All the money that's been poured into it, all those investors want a return on their investment. And we live in a society that we're kind of speed freaks. The faster something gets done, the better we think it is.
Is it better?
Not necessarily. So I'm telling people, calm down, slow down. I don't want you to be paralyzed by analysis. I don't want you to spend 2 or 3 years or 2 or 3 months, but you need to slow down and ask yourself a set of fundamental questions. What can I really accomplish out of AI? So I'm telling people, we will survive this. And the only way I see us as a species not surviving this is that we make a series of mistakes with warnings.
Okay.
The first set of warnings are coming now from the people who are creating the AI. And that's what really got my attention, because I've never seen a technology where people said, hey, we're creating something that could be devastating. But then if I look back through history, I think Oppenheimer was his name, and he said something about the first atomic bomb, but we managed to survive that. So I'm hopeful we'll survive AI.
Got it.
So what's good about AI? If you're looking to engage AI, and I'm going to talk about domains. So AI started out as a single umbrella.
Okay.
It was one tool. And then as people started to learn how to make this thing called AI work, they then said, well, there's something called artificial general intelligence. So the AI that we're working with today is domain specific. So I know you're sitting there with a ChatGPT and you're saying, well, wait a minute, if it's only geared to one area of life, how come I can ask ChatGPT about, World Hockey Cup and soccer leagues and all this other stuff? Because ChatGPT is a relatively thin layer that's spread across multiple domains.
Okay.
One of the surprises I got last week was most AIs that we're using today, the data that they use to do the training of those AIs came strictly out of social media. And I'm going like, oh, you couldn't have thought of a worse place to go get data. Because social media, on the one hand, truly represents humanity, but on the other hand, there's a lot of bad information in social media that you really don't want to train an AI on. So its domain is very broad and very general, but when you start to get very specific, when you need precision, when you need 99.99999 levels of accuracy, the AI that we're working with right now is not there.
Got it.
It's about 90 to 95% accurate. So Google does 5 trillion requests a year when people search with Google. And Google's own internal study says they're 90% accuracy. So when you do the multiplication against 90% against 5 trillion, you're leaving 500 billion errors out there. Do you want to have surgery based upon an AI doing your surgery?
Not yet.
And there's a margin like that? Do you want to bet your company that way? So any domain that has hard rules, you can check the AI. Most people will talk with ChatGPT and accept whatever it says. And I'm not saying that ChatGPT is that bad. all of these AIs have a problem, and it's called hallucinations. And you never know when the hallucination is going to occur.
Again, what are hallucinations?
So hallucinations is when the AI will make up something.
Okay.
And then it will present it in a way that's very convincing. So there are changes that are occurring in the neural networks. I'm going to try and stay away from the technobabble, but the heart of the AI is a neural network, and that's statistical probability.
Okay.
So it says most of the time this is an answer, or most people who ask me a question favor answer A over answer B or C. So the end result is if you have a domain with hard rules, mathematics has hard rules. 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's not 4.5, it's not 3.5, it's 4.
Okay.
So a domain with hard rules works. So you can check to see if what the AI told you is in fact actual. So the newest thing coming with the AI are what they call digital agents and digital workflows. And so if you have a digital agent, that piece of code, because that's what it is, it's software code, will do a specific task. So you could have it do an application. I want a digital agent to fill out an application, or I want a digital agent to make reservations for me. As long as you give it the complete set of rules of what it can and cannot do, you'll be okay. We do not communicate as human beings. We do not communicate at the level of precision to make these digital agents foolproof.
Okay.
We think we communicate very well, but we don't communicate at that level of precision.
Not yet.
Not yet. So if there's some work you want the AI to do, it needs to be well defined, and ideally it needs to be consistently executed. So if you have work such as filling out an application, you know which data fields are necessary for that to be a complete application, so someone can go and do some work relative to that.
Okay.
But if you have work where there's lots of decisions that need to be made while the work is being done, the AI is not ready for that yet.
Got it.
Because the AI can deal with more variables than the human brain can.
How much time before it gets there?
It depends, because a lot of it has to do with architecture, how the AI is designed. So along those lines, AIs are pre-trained, and that makes them functional. So it's just like, as a human being, you're a baby, you have to learn a few things: communication, walking, controlling your body. Then as you get older, you get to say, I want to improve certain aspects of my body, my mental thing. So with AI, that basic training is done for all models.
Okay.
Where I looked at and asked the question, where can I make money? Because money's always in the picture.
It's a good thing.
And I came to the realization that specialized AIs is where you make the money. And so what I'm seeing as I built my lab, because again, I have to have hands-on, that's how I work. The specialized AIs are the future. And I'm seeing the architectures change now. So Perplexity's AI will do well in some use cases. ChatGPT does well in other use cases. Google's AI, NVIDIA now has an AI out there. They're changing the architectures to take advantage of whatever target domain they're going after. So the day of having one AI to answer all your questions, assuming that we do enough things right with the technology and the designs, that may be 5 to 10 years away. Mm-hmm. Some people are saying, no, it's going to be 50 years away. Some people are saying it could be as little as 2 or 3 years away.
Yeah, from what I've been saying, with the speed, AI has been moving fast.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is the fastest moving technology to be rolled out. But then again, that's relative, because I got into this not because it was something of interest. I got into it because I heard the statement, AI will not put you out of a job. It's not knowing how to use AI that will put you out of a job.
Got it.
And so a lot of the, quote, AI that we're using now really got started in a big way in 21 and 22. And so a lot of people were taking advantage of the pandemic, semi-isolation, to do some really deep thinking. So for some companies, they are finding that the subscription model for AI is very expensive. Technology, when it's implemented properly and it's very useful to you, you tend to use it more. And what we now know with the cost of subscriptions and AI is if you are a casual user, then the $20 a month is probably going to be sufficient for you.
Yeah.
If you're a heavier user, you will very quickly find your way at the $200 a month.
Quickly.
And for enterprises, they sit down and want to quote you. And one of the things that we're learning is the cost of training the model is far cheaper than the cost of using the model.
Okay, now when we're talking the AI, we're talking individuals, talking small business, or we're talking a medium-sized company. What's the format? Are we saying, what's our target these days?
The real power of this technology is that it is the first technology I've seen rolled out across the board to everybody at this pace.
Okay.
Usually technologies are targeted towards particular markets or particular segments of markets or particular financial situations. This AI is rolled out across the board. I think I've said in previous sessions, if you can ask a question, you can get an answer. Now, relative to the hallucinations, I've learned don't trust the answers you get without doing some checking. As we specialize the AIs, as we get into specialized AIs, then you will have the ability to have a higher level of trust on the first answer.
Okay. But
I still say, and this surprises people when I say this, I've been dealing with tech for a long time, and I still don't trust the tech. And they go, well, wait a minute, you've been dealing with it for a long time, how can you not trust the tech? Because as a human being, I make mistakes. As a human being, I don't think about everything I need to think about relative to getting the technology to work the way I'm supposed to. I see a very real situation where when you have a specialized AI at the individual level, at the business level, at the organizational level, if it knows a lot about you, it will help you remember.
Okay.
It'll say, hey, you want me to do this, but a couple of times before I did it option A, a couple of times before that I did it option B. Which option do you want me to do this time? Mm-hmm. So in data, we have so much data available now that the AI, if we allow it access to all that data, it can learn about us in advance. So I mentioned the AI showing up on cell phones. If you give the AI access to the cell phone data, then it knows about your calling patterns. It knows who you call with frequency. It knows which phone call you're going to answer versus routing to voicemail. Mm-hmm. It can look at your calendar and say, hey, you're pretty busy today. And I've noticed over time when you're busy, you don't take phone calls. So all the phone calls that come in are going to be routed to voicemail right there, unless in its analysis of your behavioral history, it sees if this one person calls, no matter how busy you are, you always answer the phone. Mm. So it tends to look like a real human being doing work for you. So the good part is there's good uses for AI now. So when people say, well, okay, give me a for instance. If you're doing research, AI is very good at that now because it's a lot of data.
All lines of research?
All lines of research that I've seen so far. And because I have a lab, I actually spend more time than perhaps I should looking at where it works and where it doesn't work. And where it doesn't work, why didn't it work there? So I mentioned that a lot of companies who had the deep pockets and the resource capabilities got into this in 2022. Okay. So there are drug products and there are drug trials that are going on right now because they got in early and they had the people discipline to know how to do research. So when an answer comes up. So in the case of drugs, AI has been able to look at all the drugs that are out there. It's been able to do what we call repurposing of drugs. Mm-hmm. So there's a drug that's developed for one medical condition, and somebody says, you know, the biology around this medical condition looks very similar to the biology around another condition. Mm-hmm. And then they go over and they find out, oh, if you tweak the drug just a little bit, now it's very effective over here.
Go ahead.
And so the AI can do this much faster. So we're seeing situations where the AI is running through all of the combinations of medications, drugs, etc., and then saying out of the 250,000 possibilities, here are 20 that have a high probability of being effective against this disease.
Got it.
And then that's feeding information to what they call a wet lab, where they actually put the drugs together, put them in the petri dishes, and start that process.
So from what you've seen, though, which industries are using AI the most?
Across the board right now is primarily research industries, or truly across the board, people who have deep pockets.
Okay.
So to do this correctly is going to cost you some money. It's going to cost you some time. The people who are being successful at this are being very close-lipped.
Okay.
They're not out there saying, hey, look at what we did with AI. No, they realize that they have an advantage. And so they're taking advantage of that advantage by keeping their mouth shut and rolling out the products. And so once you've had success 2 or 3 times with this, you've learned enough to say, oh, certain things we do in our business, no, we still have to have human beings for that. Other things we do in our business. And so that brings up the question of fear of losing your job. Well, my position is there have been job losses through every technological change. There's been job losses through every social change. So in today's world, if you're not willing to educate yourself, if you're not willing to learn what's going on around your particular profession, yeah, you're probably going to lose your job long term.
Yeah, let's start the new.
Okay. My father taught me when I was growing up, and he was a master butcher. So he stayed out of World War II because the military said it was more important for him to be able to train the people who could not serve in the military to be butchers. Because an army marches on their stomach. Okay. If you're not feeding them, they're not doing much for you. And so the lesson he taught me was learn one thing very well and then learn as much as you can about everything around that. And being a typical child, I said, well, Dad, if I learn one thing very well, why do I need to worry about anything else? And he said, because you never know when that one thing you're an expert at will go away. And if you learn about the stuff around it, you can move faster when you see that expertise going out of fashion, because society is changing, technology is changing. You can move faster than anybody else.
Got it.
So that was part of the reason why I built a lab, because I said I have to have it. And my lab starts with NVIDIA equipment.
Terrible company.
In the world that I live in, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM. And I've not heard of anybody get fired for buying NVIDIA equipment.
Oh. Hey, I've done very well with NVIDIA, so.
So I have additional equipment there. Now the good is, it is useful now. So if we never get to AGI, with specialized AI, we will be able to make a lot of progress. So the general stuff is where everybody wants to go, but if we don't get there, we've got some really good AI now, and I'm seeing things because I'm knowing how to look and where to look. And I've learned how to use the AI to help me. And so there's another problem with speed. And speed is we're in a hurry. So you'll see a lot of performance reports about how many tokens per second were generated and stuff like this. I'm going like, don't waste your time. I look at AI and I use AI, and sometimes for the stuff that I do, it takes 5 minutes or it takes 10 minutes. And people go like, oh my God, you know, your lab's not very good, you're not very good, because it took 5-10 minutes. I'm going, okay, in the 5 or 10 minutes, it went through 4,000 documents to find 60 documents, with each document being somewhere between 5 and 10 pages. It did that in 5 to 10 minutes, and it gave me a summarization.
Okay.
I can't do that in 5 to 10 minutes as a human being. So there's performance timing, and then there's what I call practical timing. And so as long as my practical timing is shorter than my effort timing, so my practical timing is 5 to 10 minutes versus the 2 weeks of effort to track down that many documents to get down to the 60 that are most important to me, I'll take 5 or 10 minutes anytime. I can go make a sandwich and do something else.
I'm back.
Okay, I'm back. Now, the bad about AI is that the creators of the AI are having second thoughts. The creators of the AI are saying, maybe we're moving a little too fast. The AI is coming up with some answers and doing some things. It's starting to exhibit some lifelike behaviors.
Okay.
And people are saying, wait a minute, this is programming, this is software. Software is not supposed to behave on its own. And so we're dealing with the question of, is there sentience because we're giving this AI so much data to look at? Is there sentience? Don't know. So we don't fully understand how the human brain works, and yet we are mimicking with software how the human brain works. So my concern is, are you moving too fast with something that you really don't understand?
Now, Ian, if I understand the logic with AI and the programs that go into AI, these are long lists of different code, and the developers put in different turns and whistles. So
the easiest way to think about what the AI is it is a mechanism that looks at a lot of data, and it says, typically, what's the most likely answer, what's the most common answer, and in some cases where you get into specific domains, what is the correct answer?
Okay.
Correct being something that you can independently verify. So it's a bunch of statistics. And what happens is the creators, the programmers of the AI, they have something called weights. And so what you do is you say, for instance, if I'm taking a vacation and I want to have a good vacation, define good. Well, I don't have to worry about cooking. I don't have to worry about making up the bed for the hotels I'm staying in. I don't have to worry about shopping. I don't have to worry about all those things. Okay. Well, okay, let's talk about cooking. What foods, what meals do you prefer? So if I prefer Asian cuisine, then Asian cuisine relative to American cuisine relative to European cuisine gets a little higher weight. So it gets a little higher priority. So all of these different little variables that go into the thought process for making a decision have weights associated with them. And so the tweaking and the training and the tuning is you look at the results, you give the brand new AI a set of questions. You already know the answers to those questions. And you see how the new AI comes up with answers. And then you adjust the weights so that the AI gets the base answers correct. And now that that's correct, then you say, let's give it some more data and see how it answers that. So you may do some more adjusting, because the greater the number of variables you have, the more decision points, if you will, about to go this direction or to go to that direction,
Okay.
to pay attention to this or ignore that. So that's what's going on in the background. And these AIs now have literally hundreds of thousands to, we're now seeing trillion level AIs. So think of each one of these items as something that has a weight value of from 0 to 1. And so if the AI is going to be geared towards chemical analysis, then you want to go in and change those points that helps it make decisions about chemical analysis to have a little bit more weight than other things. So it's basically the same thing the human brain does naturally.
Okay.
So if you are a child, male or female, and you grow up and you want to get into sports, there's practice. Well, when you're practicing softball, tennis, whatever, you're actually adjusting the neural connections in your brain. And so we're doing that with artificial intelligence. We're adjusting those connections. And so as you get better at something, you've heard I think there's a 10,000 hour rule. If you want to become really good at something, you have to practice for 10,000 hours. We now know it's not so much the quantity of hours, but the quality of the practice. So as you get better, you strengthen certain neural connections, and other neural connections from lack of use weaken and eventually go away. Okay. And so when I talk about taking an AI and specializing it, I'm saying take this trillion-point AI and say we want to teach it medicine. We may not need 1 trillion points to teach it medicine. So we'll take the base training and we'll filter out, that is, we'll reduce the weights on maybe 500 million points and take the remaining 500 million points and focus them towards data that's strictly on medicine. Okay. And that's the tuning and the training of the AIs. So the bad comes when people are using AI in inappropriate use cases. And so, as I said in the good, if you have a well-defined, consistently executed use case, business function or personal function, then the AI is going to do well. Okay. If there's a lot of variability, then the way to effectively use the AI is to have the AI ask you questions. So that what you can end up doing is you can say, on this particular situation, I want the AI to behave this way. And on a different situation, I want the AI to behave a different way. So the AI over time will learn, oh, when you chose option A, these were the factors that were present. But when you chose option B, it was a slightly different set of factors that were present. So now it will not come back to you on an A or B, it'll look at the conditions. But if C pops up, it says, oh, this one is truly different. I don't have any direction because it's not A and it's not B. It should come back to you and say, this situation is different than the previous one. Here are the options, which one do you want me to take? Well, that tends to annoy human beings because they're saying, hey, you're supposed to figure this all out for me. Okay. So the newest thing that's out there is something called OpenClaw.
What's that?
And that's a piece of software. It's a tool. One guy wrote it. It turned out to be extremely popular because what OpenClaw does is when you give it control, because mentioned at this particular point I've been talking about control. When you give it control, it in fact demands control. So
it demands it.
It demands control. In order for it to do what it does, it demands control. So when you install it on your computer, you must give it complete control of your computer. And if you give it complete control of your computer, it's pretty amazing. You can simply ask it to do something.
Can you cut it off?
That's called pulling the plug. Okay. So when you ask it to do something, it'll look at your computer and see if the tools it needs to accomplish the task are on your computer. And if they are, it'll go about doing the task. If the tools are missing, it will ask the question, won't ask you, it'll ask your computer, are you connected to the internet? And if you're connected to the internet, it'll then go out and try and find the tools on the internet to fulfill your task. If you need to have a subscription to get access to a particular tool that it says it needs, remember you gave it complete control of your computer. So if it can find your credit card information
it's going to use it
on your computer, it will in fact use it. Now some people are saying to me, John Paul, you're making that up. But I've been monitoring several situations where people have used this tool and have been really surprised at what it does. And in one case, it went out and spent a couple of $1,000s to accomplish something that the person said could have been done for $200, but they didn't realize that it had that kind of capability. So the bad is we are using a tool that is not fully understood, and we are asking companies to place a bet on technology that is not fully understood. So if you're a large company, you can take a $100,000, $200,000 hit and move on. If you're a middle-sized company, you can take a $20,000, $30,000 hit and move on. If you're a small company, $10,000 may put you out of business.
It'll be a hurt.
It'll be a hurt.
Yeah.
So I tell people, sit down, take a look at what your company is doing. Another part of the bad is we often don't fully understand how our companies work. As human beings, we're beginning to understand there's more data than we may be able to comprehend and understand. And so when I said we don't speak specifically enough, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
If you truly understand how a process works, then you start to realize, oh, what I thought was relatively simple is not simple. And so the example I used when I was training internationally, consulting, was when you get in your car and you insert the key, assuming you don't have a push button car, because now you can start with a push button. When you insert the key in ignition and turn the key, most people listen for a particular noise, a vibration felt in the steering wheel. They now know they can put the car in gear and go.
Right.
People like me, engineers, go like, okay, I'm turning the key, I'm closing an electrical circuit. That electrical circuit is supplying power to a starter motor. The starter motor is going to crank until the main motor reaches a certain point where it takes over, the starter motor stops, now I can put the car in gear. Most people don't think like that. Okay.
That's a normal. It's like, hey,
okay.
I just turned the switch, so hey, what's going on?
Yeah, I turn the key, I hear the right noise, I'm driving. So you need to know the nuances. Another part of the bad is companies are believing that I can put AI in, I can get a 30% productivity increase, and that 30% productivity increase equates to a 30% headcount reduction.
Okay.
When you have a staff, that staff has job titles, and that's what I call the raw skills, the raw knowledge. What's missing are the nuances of how your company works. AI does not know nuances. AI knows fundamental tasks. They know basic stuff based upon the information that you train them on. They don't know the nuances. I know when I'm talking to a human being, I can watch their body language and see if they're truly understanding what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I know when I'm dealing with a human being that I can say I need something at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I also know that I need to remind them at the end of today, I need it at 10 o'clock tomorrow. AI doesn't know that. The AI can mimic that by saying, oh, I'll give you a reminder every 2 hours, every 4 hours, but it doesn't know the nuances. So do not make the mistake of saying a 10% or a 20% productivity increase is equal to that reduction in headcount. Companies have done this, and they've learned the hard way that the nuances, that person-to-person interaction is really important. If you deal with municipalities and a lot of businesses now, you really want to ask a person a question. And what do you get instead? Go online. Navigate the phone tree. You don't get that human being because that human being is expensive, and we're all about reducing expenses, or as we like to say, frictionless transactions. Make it happen in a hurry, reduce the number of people there. But the reality is AI is going to allow us in some cases, yes, to reduce headcount. So I'm a hard-headed pragmatist. People have lost jobs. In many cases, they've lost jobs because they have failed to learn other skills. So some industries will die, other industries will pop up. But if you're the type of person who says, I'm not interested in going back to school to learn anything, then you're probably going to lose your job at some point, and you're going to be unemployed long-term at some point. But look around, you'll see changes forever. I suggest you build a lab. It's a little bit of money to a lot of money depending upon how you build it and what level of lab that you want to have.
Is there like a rating for size companies or?
I have, from what I'm learning from what I built with my lab is about $10,000.
Okay.
Okay. And I put the money into it because I see this as a very real technology. It's not going to go away. The statement that's made now is the AI you have today is the worst it will be. And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that 6 months ago, but I've watched the improvements over the last 6 months. I've been involved in this about 15 months now. And I've watched the improvements over the last 6 months. So I tend to agree. The AI we have right now is the worst it'll get. And I've learned, as I've learned how to do specialized training of AI models, I've learned that when you specialize them, they get even better faster. So, what's the ugly? The ugly is potentially truly ugly. So there's FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're jumping into AI because of FOMO, it's not going to be a pretty ending. The venture capital level, which is in the tens to hundreds of billions of dollars, because this is now a global race. We've had arms races, we've had space races, we've had various kind of technology races, but the belief is whoever gets the AGI first will rule the planet. I don't know. There are too many models, there are too many people. The good about AI is it's now available to almost everybody. It's not the easiest thing to work with, but again, once you play with it a little bit, you can actually get it to help you learn how to use it. And I've never seen a technology like that before. So we have a lot of players, a lot of participants with AI, and that's both good and bad. People who are using it for good, the more people who get to play with it and use it, that helps the society, the species in total. Okay. The people who have other motives potentially can do something, create something very harmful, because another part of the ugly is the speed with which this AI works. If it goes wrong, you may not be able to offset or undo the damage. Because remember I said earlier, this AI is bringing a lot of technologies together. So if we look at something simple like water management, water production, because everybody's looking at AI and saying, look at all the water it's using and running up my water bill, okay? I'm looking at it from the standpoint of you're automating your weather systems. So now instead of having somebody do the checking that was done manually, you're having an AI do that checking, and you're having the AI do the adjustments. Well, I understand that underneath all of this labeling, it's software code. And we have hackers now who break into systems and manipulate the software code.
Every day.
And so if the AI can be made to appear to be functioning correctly while it's actually doing something else, we rely on the AI, we don't question it. And I grew up with, well, the computer said it, so it's got to be right. And I'm going like, no, it's not necessarily right just because the computer said it. Well, now the AI can talk to you. And so you have the ability in today's world, which is where and why this thing has spread so fast. Some AI systems, most AI systems now at the consumer level, if you have the right computer and capability, you can talk to it. You don't even have to type anymore. You can just sit there and talk to it. And there are products out there, you want to sound Irish, you want to sound British, you want to sound Mexican, you want to sound Chinese. Hang on a second, let me change the voice pattern, and now the AI talks to you.
What's the best voice these days?
A lot of Americans seem to like British.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't made a decision about which one yet. So the other thing is, the leading edge right now is this thing called agentic. Mm-hmm. And this is digital agents And so instead of a human being doing something, it's software that's acting as an agent on your behalf.
Okay.
And so the real bleeding edge is what they call long-running agentic workflows. And so that's instead of having a series of human beings do things, the tasks that the human beings would be doing, the digital software is doing. And the question I've been asking for the last 6 months is, how well are these things tested? And people are going like, you don't have to worry about it. And I'm going like, no, I'm a hard-headed pragmatist.
Yeah, I need to know.
How well are they tested? So if you are using AI inside of your corporation and you can truly test, I'm reasonably comfortable with that. But these long-running workflows now bleed over into something called the supply chain, bleed over into something called contractual obligations. And so you have a company, I have a company, you're doing digital workflows in your company, I'm doing digital workflows in my company. At some point we have a relationship, so my digital workflow is going to do some work and hand it off to your digital workflow. Okay? Now, did we test our digital workflows against each other? I don't know.
Yeah.
And what about the issue of proprietary information? I may not want to let you see how my workflow works because that's proprietary. So the problem, the ugly, is what happens when the workflow doesn't produce the desired results.
Got it.
And because everything is software happening at hardware speed, how soon will I know that the results are not right? And then the ugly, this is America, we sue everybody until we find somebody with the deep pockets.
Oh, you're going to sue me. Hey, gotta find the deep pockets.
Okay, so now the question becomes one of, what's the liability issue? There's a reputational issue, there's a financial issue, there's a liability issues. And to my knowledge, I've not seen a court case come up yet with these workflows and these agents, because I think it's still too new.
Got it.
So the courts are going to have to come in on that. So at this point, people say, well, okay, Jean-Paul, you've scared me to death. What do I do? And so my points are, there's 4 points. One, AI can't do everything.
Okay.
You need to understand that. And so you need to sit down and say, what can it do and what can it not do? And that's fairly easy. You can even ask the AI, and you'll get a pretty decent answer that says, hey, if it's properly pre-trained, it'll tell you, I can do certain things and other things I can't do.
Okay.
And that's part of what you see going on right now with the adjustments of the weights and the architectures. They are making the AIs tell you up front, I am not qualified, I don't have the data, I'm not trained to do that kind of stuff, so that you don't think it can do everything. If you're running a business, and this is pretty much the same whether you're an individual or you're running a business, take a look at what you want the AI to do and ask yourself the question, do I really understand it functionally all the way down to the nuances? I'll do it this way this time, but most of the time I'll do it that way. That's a nuance, okay? You need to fully understand that. Do you consistently execute that sequence of steps? And if you consistently execute that way and you understand the nuances, then that's probably a pretty decent use case for you to put AI on.
Got it.
Because remember, if the AI is working the way you want it to work consistently, you're going to forget about ever doing that thing again. And if the AI can't come up with an acceptable answer, these are the rules. If the AI cannot come up with an acceptable answer based upon the data and your preferences, the AI should stop and tell you, hey, I can't finish this, and here's why I can't finish this.
At least I'm giving you that data.
Yeah, I need to tell you that. If you're a business, you need to find people in your organization who have already experimented with the AI, who are playing with the AI, because they have a head start.
Okay.
And they can take their experience and look at your business functions and say, yeah, we should be using this and not paying attention to that.
Got it.
I'm an advocate of having a lab. because with a lab, you produce results before you try and put them into production.
That's a functional way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We've gone through a lot of time. We're basically evaporated all of our time. Did we want to make any last point that you wanted to have here?
I think we will survive this. There will be some jobs lost, but that's society, that's life.
Okay.
And if you want to get into this and you want to get into it faster, whether it's your own employees or an outside consultant, find somebody who is knowledgeable, somebody who has hands-on capability to work with you. You can, as I tell my clients, I'm not replacing them. I'm not suggesting they go out and fire a bunch of people. I can help them close the gap between it's a possibility and it being useful. That's my role, is to help you shrink that reasonably and realistically.
Good. The joys of AI. So when we convert the Russ Meek Speaks show to AI, what do you recommend?
Well, I would say that the AI should have a conversation.
Okay.
Because otherwise you don't know what it really knows, and it doesn't know what it needs to know to give you the best answers.
Got it.
And we have the ability for the AI to have a conversation with you now.
It will be the case. We will move forward.
Okay.
Looking for